Hey everybody, welcome to another Midas Letter RAW. Couple of questions we're going to hit right off the bat. People are wondering who are our clients. Today our clients are Khiron Life Sciences. That's it, one client, not everybody, not all the people that you're all speculating on as clients. In general, 99% of the companies we talk about are not clients. However, 90% of the companies we talk about we either invest in or have invested in or will invest in. So that's why this little scroller that goes across the front of the screen, if we could have that go through by there right now, control room, happens, and it says what? Midas Letter and its affiliates, Ed being an affiliate. Employees and related entities are active market participants who may trade in the securities of companies mentioned on this broadcast. Midas Letter Media Corp provides media production and traffic generation services to some of the companies mentioned on this broadcast. Many is probably true in the sense that over time we do it for many. But generally, we only have a small collection of clients because we choose the clients, they do not choose us. So for all of you fundamental hype, this is kind of directed at you idiots out there who like to cast aspersions on the characters of all the hardworking people here who make this happen. Go fuck yourself, mate. It's not true and you're full of shit. Anyways, on that note, Ed, let's have a more upbeat broadcast, shall we? It's a green day on the cannabis industry list. We're looking at weed is up 11 cents, but Aurora up 87 cents, 12.79. It's a new day for Aurora.
Aurora used to be a client.
Aurora has been a client in the past, that's correct.
Yeah, so some of the people we talk about have been clients, and,
that's
and
correct.
their contracts up.
And yes.
Yeah, so sure.
That's right. So Aurora has added $2.8 billion in market cap since Nelson Peltz joined the board. Nelson Peltz himself being a multi-billionaire. Now, just for you people who might be interested in what's coming up on our show out there, Nelson Peltz and Cam Battley will be in the studio with yours truly in New York City in, we're going to say the second week of April. And we are going to have an in-depth conversation about what that might mean for Aurora, if you know what I'm saying. Bruce Linton is going to be here on the 26th of March, right here. Sitting right next to us here, talking about what's coming up next in the Canopy Growth's grand evolution. There's so much going on in this cannabis space, it is crazy. On the media side, it's just crazy. We're going to be shooting our first show from Los Angeles, California, the YouTube studio there, probably the last week of this month, so 2 weeks from now. Some of the celebrity guests who are going to be on that show are too numerous and too much to talk about right now, but let's just say that it's going to take this thing in a whole new direction.
Go West, young man. Go
Yes.
James West, young man.
We're also going to be shooting from Berlin, Germany this summer. We're going to be shooting from London, England this summer. We're going to be shooting from Paris, France this summer. We're going to be shooting from Rio de Janeiro. However, we're going to try to push that off till the winter for obvious reasons. And let's see, we also have the ability to shoot from Dubai, Mumbai, and Tokyo. Though, none of those countries, as far as I know, are really making much progress down the legalization of cannabis path.
Are we shooting from Venezuela?
Nope.
Didn't think so.
No. No studio in Caracas. No studio in Caracas. But here's the thing. Now, the YouTube management that I talked to said, you know, if you want to see a studio somewhere, you should give us some indication of where you'd like to see a studio. I think they should have a studio in Mexico City.
It's one of the biggest cities in the world.
And Mexicans make killer content, like Mexican street art, Mexican...
Very colorful.
The videographers, like the motion picture industry there is actually so vibrant, and the stars are so big. I was at a hotel, and it was a big dinner for the soap. It was the equivalent of the soaps, whatever the soap. What do you call that? Soap opera. So the Mexican Soap Opera Awards. We're having a big dinner in the private dining room next to the bar I was sitting at, and I'll tell you, there were some beautiful people there.
Yeah.
And they were having a rocking good time, and I just thought to myself, damn, I wish my Spanish was better, and I wish I was connected to the Mexican motion picture and television industry. But boy, they have some fun. Coming up on today's show, we are going to talk to, among other people, Damian Kettlewell is going to be here from BlissCo Corporation at 3:15 via Skype. Dmitry Zaytsev, analyst intrepid extraordinaire, will be here. 4:10, Chuck Smith, we're going to talk to CEO of Dixie Brands about his recent joint venture with Khiron Life Sciences. Khiron's our client. Dixie is not. 4:27, being Friday, we're going to have our bloopers. So I don't know why we call them bloopers, because they never get blooped out. They always stay right in the feed. But that's because we don't really edit anything here. Anyways, so there's a lot of companies we don't cover here. And people have been asking in the mail about, like, how do we choose which companies we talk about, which companies we invite. So in an effort to sort of more broadly disseminate the process by which we figure out who we want to talk to, we typically start the day in the Chase production department reading the news. And a company that puts out news, and they're a Canadian listed company, we're going to see them in that CDAR section on cdar.com. And so that's our first line pass. Then we go and look at who the high traders are. Then we look at the ones that are falling out of bed, the low traders. So we're looking for companies making moves to the upside, the downside, and or putting out news. Also, we take audience suggestions. If you have a suggestion for a company that we have not yet featured, by all means, drop us an email, midasletter@midasletter.com. We read everything. In fact, on that note, I would like to bring up an email that I received from a gentleman who calls himself Paul King. And I'm sure that's what his mother called him, and that's why he calls himself Paul King. But Paul King had a very, I don't know, I'm going to call it an abrasive way of commenting about our show. And he was, I mean, he was just downright critical about our interview yesterday with Jay Wilgar from Newstrike, because he felt that he was asking if we were their IR firm now, because he felt that we were a little bit accommodating, to say the least.
Really?
Now, yeah. And
isn't Newstrike being taken over?
Newstrike is being taken over by Hexo. Now, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul. I know you said in your email that you didn't want to hear from us or talk to us again, but you know, we kind of like to talk about people who make such rude comments to us in mail a bit, and you know, drag their name into the muck a little bit and see if they're able to defend their position with something more than vitriol and insults. So we're curious as to whether you might have been a shareholder of Newstrike who bought high and sold low. And that might be the reason for your emotional state in your email, which, you know, there's a substance on the planet for that. It's called cannabis. I highly recommend you consume as much as you can. But if that's not the case, then by all means, we'd love to have you and hear from you as to why you're so bitter. We have such a plethora. It's an embarrassment of riches around here coming up in terms of the new companies coming to the cannabis space that we are diligently making relationships with. So we had, if you saw the interview the other day with Ventura Cannabis and Jacob Gamble. Now there's a new one. Stock has doubled in the last 4 months. They've rolled it back. They've jettisoned that, which does not work. They're shooting for revenue of $25 million this year. They have a market cap of, sorry, what was it? Well, it's about 30 million. Anyways, that's cheap. Here's Ricky with the news.
Here are the headlines moving markets today. Liberty Health Sciences Inc. is continuing its expansion in Florida. The company is on schedule to open its 12th dispensary in Gainesville, Florida on March 20th, 2019, subject to the receipt of Florida Department of Health approvals. The Gainesville area is also home to 2 Liberty facilities that house an aggregate of 228,880 square feet of cultivation space. Harvest Health and Recreation have announced grants of stock options pursuant to the stock option plan of the corporation. The company has granted over 12 million stock options to certain officers, directors, employees, or consultants of the corporation. Each stock option will entitle the holder thereof to purchase one common share of the corporation at a price of $10.20 Canadian per share until March 13th, 2029. Tilt Holdings Inc. announced today that Tilt's common shares have been approved to begin trading on the OTCQB venture market effective immediately. 1933 Industries Inc. has closed its previously announced non-brokered private placement, which raised total proceeds to the company of $4.5 million Canadian dollars. Pursuant to the offering, the company issued 10,000 units at 45 cents per unit. Each unit consists of one common share and one common share purchase warrant of the company. Each warrant entitles the holder to purchase one share at a price of 50 cents per share for a period of 24 months following today's closing date of the offering. Avicanna Inc's joint venture partner and anchor customer, UK-based Dragonfly Biosciences LLC, has increased its minimum monthly order of 50 kilos of CBD per month to over 170 kilos per month for the next quarter. And that's your news for today.
Hey, we're back. How about that? What news? What news do you say? What news? How about Liberty Health Sciences is growing ever bigger in Florida? That's interesting. Who's going to buy Liberty Health Sciences? Or is it going to remain an unofficial affiliate of Aphria?
I was watching the, I know I shouldn't bring this up, but I was watching the one of our competitors.
Our competitors? We don't have any competitors, Ed.
Well, let's say someone that's trying to be a competitor.
Bloomberg?
No, close.
CNBC? Jim Cramer?
Canada.
Canada?
Anyway,
Andy Bell,
you know
BNN?
what? Yeah, you know what the bottom on the thing was?
What?
Lunch with Andy DeFrancesco
Where?
on the TV screen today. That was their little segment.
Whose?
BNN.
Lunch with Andy DeFrancesco? BNN had lunch with Andy. Well, that's awesome. So they're coming around. They can't make up their minds.
Well, they basically said like he has not heard from the SEC. And he said, I'm willing to open my books if the short guys are willing to open their books.
Huh. Yeah. SEC. We won't talk about them. Let's see, what else is going on? So, in the cannabis space today, biggest traders in the CSE index. I thought that would be an interesting, so in dollar terms, the biggest leap in growth, the greatest leap forward, as Mao Zedong would have said, it would happen with Acreage Holdings. ACRG.U jumped $2 today, 11.73% on no news.
Wow. We talked about that the other day.
We did. Now, why does a company jump 10% in a day on no news? Is it either because news is coming that is unknown to the inside?
News is coming.
In which case, is there some insider action there? Or they've just been marketing hard and they talked some big fund manager into stepping right in front of that freight train and loading up the truck. Back up the car and fill it up with stock, and here we go. Anyways, number 2 performer was Ianthus, added 13 cents, up at 1.85%. And CLSH, there's that one again that I can never figure out the company name. Hold on, we're going to get there. One moment, please. Quote, CLSH. CLS Holdings, USA, ordinary shares. Great. That's a hell of a name. CLS Holdings.
Clash.
Those are the guys, aren't those the guys that do the plant propagation?
I know my knowledge of the marijuana space, I got to contend, is very minimal. I know, based on the way other companies are looked, there's a lot of expectation built in the system, and maybe rightly so. But I don't know anything between this, and I know a difference between an edible and a flower. But
so you're a consumer. But not so much an investor in the space.
No, you know what I mean? I do occasion, but I mean, look at like stocks in this area double like easily.
Okay, on that note, and just to appease the Paul Kings of the world, let's pull up a chart of Newstrike.
And the ticker again is
HIP.
Oh yeah, HIP
On the CSE. CNX.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to put up a chart. No, that's not it. HIP on the C and an X. Why is this not working? Huh.
Well, that's funny.
I get nothing. I'll try it one more time. You sure it's not the CA? Oh, it is in the CA.
Oh, so they switched to the.
Okay, so look,
CSX
so here's
Duh.
a 2-year chart. That's all you need to see because everything is right there, and it's very simple. Look at this. We had a base, we had a mania. That's our favorite chart right there. Anyway, look. I mean, it's done nothing except for in that 2-year period, it had a 2-month period where it went up from basically 50 cents to $3 and back to $1, then moved sideways. And I mean, if you bought it in here, there isn't a happy shareholder. Got to be careful what I draw here. It looks a little suggestive.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, let's not hey.
Dirty minds out there, Ed, easily influenced.
Okay, so I'll just clean that up, but what else is there to say? There's not much else to say because it hasn't done anything. Now,
okay, now let's look at Hexo.
Let's look at Hexo. And Hexo trades in the CA as well. I know that.
Yeah. So Hexo's increased in price. They paid no discount. They paid no premium to New Strike, which is probably the source of ire for all of the shareholders, even those who are still in the money. Now, wouldn't you think if you were a shareholder of New Strike and you got taken out by a much bigger company at 0 premium, how would you feel about that?
Well, I kind of think that HIP probably thought, maybe management of HIP maybe thought, this in the long run will be the best strategy for the shareholders. Because I got to believe that a lot of management were big shareholders, and if they're big shareholders and they thought this is the best thing for us as big shareholders, yeah, I mean, maybe they thought, listen, what are we doing here? Nothing. The stock told you were doing nothing, so maybe we should do something, and maybe this was
doing something,
doing something that would ultimately add value.
So it was a mercy killing for New Strike, but not much mercy. And for Hexo, it was just a cheap date.
Look, we know there's going to be carnage in this business, right? Not everybody's going to be going to the front of the class and getting that nice juicy apple.
Yeah. Coming up, we're going to talk to the CEO of BlissCo.
BlissCo Cannabis Corp is a Canadian wellness cannabis brand based in British Columbia and a multi-licensed cultivator, processor, and distributor of premium cannabis. BlissCo owns and operates an 18,000 square foot state-of-the-art GPP facility located in Vancouver, British Columbia, with extraction, cultivation, and processing rooms. With a license to process cannabis oil acquired in August of 2018, BlissCo's extraction lab is also in operation, preparing a line of full-spectrum oils for distribution in 2019. BlissCo Cannabis Corp is listed on the CSE under the ticker symbol BLIS.
Joins me now. He's the CEO of BlissCo Cannabis Corp. Damian, how are you?
I'm great, James. How you doing?
I'm well as well. Damian, let's start with an overview of the company's business model for our listeners who might not be familiar with you.
Absolutely. BlissCo is a wellness cannabis brand based in Metro Vancouver. We're an extraction company, and we are multi-licensed, with a license to produce oil, license to sell dried cannabis, and we are making considerable progress. We are making our way through the European MP certification process, so we're making good progress on that as well. And we're really set up to be a strong medical brand, and as well, we're doing a strong focus on the non-medical side as well. We've announced distribution deals into BC and Saskatchewan to date, and there's many more to come. So we're making steady progress. The team is growing considerably, and revenue is here. So we're very excited about that, and we're excited to take our unique brand to the market. We spoke in May last year, James, and it's great to be back on. And the company has grown significantly since we spoke last year.
Sure. Okay, so then the primary focus of the company is growing cannabis, or are you going to be more focused on consumer packaged goods down the road?
We were definitely a processor. We were not a farmer, so BlissCo is really focused on adding value to every product. But we did want to take the low-hanging fruit and have the revenue as possible out of the gate. So initially, we have been shipping jobs to the BC government to start, and pre-roll as well, and are definitely making strong headway to get our oil sales license, and we'll have the capacity to produce thousands of 30 million bottles a day for the medical and for the non-medical market. And really, this all preps us for the new regulations that are coming out in October to allow extract sales, and that's where, on the vape pen side of things, that's where we're really focused. So you're going to really see BlissCo narrow our focus over time to be oil focused and extract focused, because we need to add value and add our unique spin to the brand. I mean, we're really in a increasingly marketplace with our brand on the wellness side. We are having our dried cannabis are from recycled. They're all compliant, of course. We've got our pre-rolled tubes that are coming from ocean waste that's pulled out of the ocean and transported into compliant tubes for pre-rolls. We're using glass vials for our oil tinctures. And really, the story is going to continue, and BlissCo is really establishing itself as a differentiated brand with products with real focus on oil and extract.
Okay, so you have a facility in Germany that has been an EU GMP certified facility for extracts. And is that facility certified at this point?
No, we're the GMP certification is at our Vancouver facility. So we have signed the German distribution with Pharma Drug, and that is going to enable us to export initially dried flower, and then over time to Germany, the UK, Mexico, and Brazil are the markets advanced discussions in. So that's going to be the focus is really building out this facility. We're putting a second extraction lab in right now to take our throughput. We'll be able to produce over 10 million bottles of 30 milliliter oil extracts a year. So really going to see significant growth in our ability to push product out. And so that's, the company has, we have a small cultivation facility here, but really our focus is on supply agreements. Supply agreements, we're very, they're an equity partner in BlissCo, and we have a very good supply agreement with them. And then as well, we have a supply agreement with Seal Cannabis out of Stratford, Ontario as well, that we're delighted to be working with as well. So yeah, we continue milestones. We continue to add shareholder value with certifications that are a lot of work and a significant investment to get these additional certifications. And we're really having for a company where first for sales we'll be reporting February, March, and April this year. We'll have significant revenues in our first quarter. So really, I think things are coming as we had hoped, as we had planned. A lot of planning into this process. We've added, a really high caliber team, folks who have a strong pharmaceutical background on the finance side. We're working with the Jim Pattison Group, folks at Johnson & Johnson, and folks that have our members have come from PharmaSave and then from Great Canadian Casino. So really a high caliber of team that is really setting us in with our strong partnership with Supreme and Green Seal. I'm confident that we're going to be able to and execute on all these plans and have strong partners with the BC and in Saskatchewan and additional partnerships will be announced in the very near future.
Okay, Damian, that's great. We're going to leave it there for now and come back to you soon. Thanks very much for the update.
Lovely to see you again, James, and thank you for your time.
Okay, that was sound quality challenged.
It was. It's too bad.
But we'll have Damian back again shortly as soon as we can get our sound sorted out. I think that was a signal issue, actually. Okay, so coming up in a moment, we're going to talk to Dmitry Zaytsev, the Russian bear.
Is he coming on now?
Shortly, no. And so, yeah, that was technology, you know. We got to get that new system going.
This company, I'm looking at a 6-month chart, 8-month chart. Actually, it's a 1-year chart, BlissCo. And
let's pull up that chart.
It's sitting right here.
Oh, it's got a nice lift coming in. Look at that.
It's really, like, if you think about it, a year ago, it was trading at 44. Today it's trading at 41.
But if you bought it in the beginning of the year.
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, you know, that would have been a great place to buy it.
Right. So I've got to figure.
Here, well, you know, if you'd have bought anything at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Just because of the massive tax loss selling and the markets were but whatever. Yeah, well, the markets have had a great run. There's no question.
Yes. Yes. Okay, coming up in a minute, we're going to talk to Dmitry, but first, here's some things coming up in terms of reporting financials, financial reporting.
Here are some upcoming events in the cannabis space. Tilray are set to release their Q4 financials on March 18th, followed by a conference call at 5:00 p.m. Eastern. Khiron Life are releasing their Q4 financials on March 20th with a conference call at 4:30. And Kronos Group are releasing their Q4 financials on March 26th, also with a conference call at 8:30 in the morning. CannTrust will be releasing their Q4 financials on March 28th, with a conference call at 8 a.m. that morning.
It's kind of a quick catch-up type thing.
Okay. Let me know. Was that? We're back here with Dmitry Zaytsev, who is
making dinner plans.
Joining us to talk about well, we're going to talk about Colombia. We're going to turn off my phone.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so how have you been, Dmitry?
I've been good. I know I haven't graced the show recently in the last month now, I guess. But was doing a little bit of traveling, you know, trading markets as always. But
so what have you been seeing in the markets? What have you been buying? What have you been making money on?
Well, I think last time we chatted, I was buying those Kronos puts.
Right.
And so I think we kind of chatted a little bit about that trade. So I closed out half of the position at a profit, like a 2-point-something-x profit, which covered my initial cost. And then I kind of let the rest ride. And Kronos, it hung in there. And so that kind of remainder I sold off for a couple of pennies. So on the net, it was, you know, a positive trade. But if we had a little bit less market support from the S&P 500 and all that, could have been a great trade. But generally now I'm just sort of looking in terms of undervalued names, story names. So something we can talk about as well is just the rec rollout that's coming in Ontario. And there's a couple of names there that are potentially interesting. And I think the market, up until recently, hasn't really been paying much attention to them. So there's those kind of names. And
like who are you speaking about specifically?
Like you guys, I think you guys had them last week. National Access Cannabis, Fire and Flower, Choom, Avicanna. So I think there's a supply issue in terms of Canadian cannabis, but it's on the retail side and it's on the product side. It's not on the actual production side. So that's where I think a lot of the margins are going to be captured.
So you think that the cannabis shortage is materializing?
Well, I think the cannabis shortage is in terms of certain specific products. So the LPs, with their genetics, they don't know exactly what consumers are going to be going for. And what I've seen so far from my due diligence and online and otherwise, it's people want high quality bud, and they also want high CBD oils or high THC as well. But the high CBD is a big one. So I don't know if that's similar to what you've seen, but Also, just a lot of criticism of some of the LPs, how they're packaging some of their product,
right,
as well. So I think StatsCan just released yesterday. Inventories on the balance sheets of these LPs, they're rising. Unfinished goods, everything's rising. So there's a couple of LPs that just got their licenses and all this. So there's going to be lots of weed. There's going to be lots of cannabis. But it's about having the channel that can capture the actual margin, which I don't believe is the LPs, which I believe is the downstream, and having the right product mix.
Cool. So what did you go look at in Colombia?
I almost got to look at Khiron's facility. That was could have been cool. But actually, I saw some other LPs that were down there. Colombia is a very interesting place.
Anything advanced?
Actually, I went to. So I haven't seen the Khiron facility. I just seen videos and talked to people. But I went to a LP called Avicanna, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I like to just shout out. They were very gracious. They let me tour the facility with a few friends of mine. And I think I was very impressed. They're building out a bunch of outdoor sort of greenhouse type designs. I met with their lab and technical team there. So something. And I've also talked with a number of lawyers actually on the ground and consultants outside of Avicanna. And so what I'll tell you about the Colombian market is I think exports are the big sort of golden goose there, right?
Okay.
Colombia is the cheapest and one of the countries that's really open to exporting oil. Right.
So oil for extract is going to be big there.
Yeah, it's like 5-10 cents a gram, and honestly, longer term, once you have more legalization globally, you got to think about the cost structure.
Right.
So obviously, there's synthetic cannabis and all that we can talk about, down the line. But from a cost perspective, Colombia and other jurisdictions like that are very important. The problem though is right now there's a lot of regulatory sort of hurdles and hoops these LPs have to jump in, and there's actually dozens of them, I would say, in Colombia itself. So there's only two currently public, which are Farmacello and Khiron, as far as I know.
Right.
But point is, the way I see it is 3 stages. 1, get through the government hurdles and all of that. 2, extraction bottlenecks. So you're going to be able to grow as much as you want in terms of flower. It's not hard, but it's just getting the actual extraction throughput and having the right people, the right team, that knows how to do that. That's important. And then 3, partnerships in terms of export, like where are you actually going to send this? Where's the market for this? And it's not just oil, that's a very generic term, right? There's CBD isolate, which is a specific sort of end product, like the resin. You have the full spectrum, and you have different, mixes and cannabinoids as well, right? That are very valuable.
Right. So what do you make of so Peru has just gone medically legal. Latin America is opening up generally. Brazil is obviously the biggest market there, though I find it interesting when people say Latin America and they include Brazil without having actually made any moves towards Brazil. You may as well be in Africa when you're in Brazil in terms of how similar it is to the business environment of the rest of Latin America. But so do you think that there's, is it reasonable to expect continent-wide distribution from what you've seen in Colombia so far?
I'm not too bullish on the Latin American story specifically, and the reason why is I think it's really cheap to produce, and I think a lot of just citizens, normal people, are probably growing it. And it's not a particularly rich continent either. So average incomes around the area are like $500-600 USD, right? So if you're selling a product and you want to make a margin, right, that might be a little bit tough. I'm not saying there isn't a market, there is, but maybe the sizing is a big debate, I think, until we see some numbers over the next couple of quarters. But I think Colombia's position as a growing, hub, and the sort of regulatory leaps that they've made there, I think is very positive for sure.
Okay. The large cap cannabis stocks have essentially been in a, sort of this equilibrium phase, as our charting man Dan was describing it, where it's kind of, the range, the volatility range is sort of narrowed as it tries to find its price equilibrium, as he described it. But then we're seeing entities like Aurora, who obviously had what you would call the macro catalyst of Nelson Peltz, add $2 billion in market cap to the stock almost overnight in 2 or 3 trading sessions. Do you think that the lift in Aurora's share price is a reflection on the kind of deal flow that Nelson Peltz is going to bring to the table?
I think it's a lot of things. It's definitely, Nelson Peltz is very well known on Wall Street. He's a big name there. I'm sort of neutral on the whole transaction, I guess you could say. On the one hand, great advisor, and I've seen a bunch of his interviews. Very impressive guy. At the same time, he also got $200 million of notional options that are vested over 4 years, with or without transactions, whatever. I'm sure if you were given that kind of deal, and you're a connected guy too, I'm sure you would take it, right?
Yes, for some reason Aurora has not offered me 10 million options, so I guess
20 million, I think it's 19 million actually, that was the incorrect headline.
Oh, is that right? Okay, so then in terms of the option trades, where are you finding fertile ground? Where are you seeing less fertile ground?
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned an equilibrium, and just generally speaking, what I've been doing, and it's worked, covered calls generally speaking, but also since these names are just going sideways, it's a little dangerous, but you can write calls and puts. So you're in essence shorting cannabis volatility, right? So I've been kind of doing that. I wouldn't say I have too large of a position on those kind of trades, but yeah, I'm just sort of wait and seeing. I think there is an issue in terms of supply, and I think some of these quarterly revenues of some of these companies are going to be very disappointing this year. But that remains to be seen in terms of where that's going to be coming from.
Sure. So of all of the large cap companies, we've got our Canadian large caps, we've got our U.S. multi-state operator large caps. Where do you see the trade for 2019?
Yeah, I think Canada's dried out in terms of trade opportunities in the large cap space. That's just my view. I think U.S. is where you want to be. I've said this multiple times, and the reason is until Canopy and Aurora can actually go in there. I know they have CBD and all that, hemp, right, Farm Bill, but until they can actually go in there, it's the value is just really Canada and the small smidge of international that exists right now. The U.S. market is large. It's going to be the biggest, nominally growth in the next 5-10 years, right? And you can actually see regulatory change happening on the ground in lots of states, whereas in Europe, for example, I think it's a lot slower. Other parts of the world, it's a lot slower relative to a bunch of the U.S. states. So I also think that it might reach a point where the U.S. MSOs are so established that some of these larger Canadian operators will have nothing better than to acquire some of them. So like, let's say
Canadians acquiring Americans.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends, right? If the States Act goes through and they can actually get financing, maybe they'll just be a standalone entity, and maybe market dynamics will shift.
Wow.
I mean, like Aurora is the #1 held stock on Robinhood right now. So there's a bunch of U.S. investors propping up.
What's Robinhood?
Robinhood. It's like a brokerage app there's no transaction fees. It's very popular with millennials.
Oh, okay.
My ilk, supposedly, right?
So Robinhood is an app where you can buy and trade stocks for no fees?
Yeah, we can get into that, but it's just very popular with millennials, and it's they actually have statistics because of the fees, amongst other things. It's a very simplistic app.
Millennials are cheap?
We don't, not a lot of money to go around after salaries are down tuition. And you have debts, you have tuition debts. Right. That's an issue.
Very cool. I'll have to check that out. Okay, so then, if we are going into the sort of drifting downward doldrums of the summer, pre-summer, and summer, where nothing happens absent the macro catalyst in the marketplace, how do you play that from an option trading perspective?
Well, honestly, the portfolios I have right now, I do have a couple stocks that I'm long. So what I would be doing is maybe writing calls on the HMMJ, which is the ETF, right? And so the trade there is, I think I'm a good stock picker, right? And so my stocks will go up, whereas the constituents of HMMJ on the net, right, will actually go down. And that's just, it's a little different too, because a bunch of the stocks that I hold aren't even in the HMMJ, like the, Ianthus and other U.S. MSOs, right? So that's one kind of trade. I think this is more of like the cannabis market right now, I think is a reflection of the extremely strong S&P we've had. We've had, by some accounts, like a record-breaking rally in terms of being a quarter ago at 2350, and now we're at 2850 practically. That's an incredible amount of S&P points to rally in just a quarter. So I think that's really sort of brought out the animal spirits and the risk-on sentiment, and not just in cannabis, in all speculative and tech stocks. Everything's really come back.
And so, from the standpoint of fundamentals, why is the are you trying to get rid of us in the control room there? They just plates. What is the fundamental reason that the S&P continues to power higher despite all these macroeconomic sort of risk, especially Brexit, etc., U.S.-China trade war? Those seem to persist. They don't seem to be going away.
No one cares about Brexit. Just FYI.
Really?
Nobody. Literally, like it's maybe for the British pound and British assets. That's about it. And some companies that might be exposed to it, but it's very small in terms of a risk. And I think just recently they had the vote, and everyone's pricing out the fact that there's going to be a hard Brexit. The main reason is Powell, right? We talked about Powell 4 months ago, remember?
Yes.
And he's the one that was talking about rates being higher, and now he's totally paused, the big Powell pause, and then he's also talking about stopping balance sheet unwind by the end of this year. So the quantitative tightening, if you
Maybe they'll start buying again if things get too ugly.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. But he's gotten, I think, a lot of criticism because economic data there wasn't really enough time over 2 months for economic data to really filter in, and the S&P drops a bit, and he panics and he says, okay guys, I'm not going to tighten, we're going to undo this, we're going to, and so the market's like, wow, we have this Powell put, we have this guy. Speaking of options, right? Protecting our downside. So why not just bid up risk assets? Every time they go down, he just saves this.
Yet another another Fed governor who watches the stock market, and anytime the S&P dives, he backs up. And it doesn't help to be under implied threat from Donald Trump.
Right.
Interesting. All right, we have to leave it there for now, I think, because I get the sense that we've gone more than our 10-minute time. But Dmitry, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again very soon.
Sounds good, James.
Thanks. Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents.
And I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here.
It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
Is Dmitry...
Puts and calls, always a mystery to me. My mathematics is barely enough to do multiplication, subtraction, division, and basic arithmetic sometimes eludes me so much. I will text you soon. The bloopers are coming up at the end of the show, Ed.
That should be exciting.
Probably one of the most exciting parts of our show.
There's only 2 types of options. Puts and calls.
Really?
And you can only buy a call or sell a call or buy a put and sell a put. And after all that, there's a million combinations and permutations. But I just outlined the whole thing for you.
Wow, so I'm already confused.
There you go.
Speaking of confusion, there was an interesting question, and I assume this is a backhanded gaffe or backhanded reference to my insinuation that Nelson Peltz getting 10 million options was immediately worth $100 million. But the reality is it's 19 million options in total, I think.
I don't know what a number was, but it depends on the strike price.
Yeah, well, obviously the strike price is going to be at or near the price at which they are granted.
Exactly.
You cannot grant options.
No, you can't give them,
So we had an interesting couple of Twitter questions there. And one of them was...
Not questions from twits, but Twitter questions.
Well, it is Twitter. The question was, if you have $5,000, or you have 5,000 options, and the strike price is $10, and the stock price is $10, Are you up $50,000 or are you flat?
You're flat.
Exactly. And I thought that was a funny question because I assumed that was in reference to my comments yesterday about Nelson Peltz getting $100 million. Sorry, I spoke too soon. Now he's worth $200 million.
Yeah. Well, now he's worth. If he had 10 million options and the stock's up $2, he's up $20 million.
It's 270.
22 points. He's up $27 million.
If he had 10 million options.
And they were up. He's up. The strike price is 10.
Yes.
And he's up $2.70.
Yes.
Per option.
Right.
Times 10 million.
Right.
10 million times 270.
Yes. 27
million. At $3, if he's up $3, he's up 30 million.
Okay.
For every dollar he's up 10 million.
See, this is why I don't do math.
You know what? It happened to be one of my fortes. I hate to say it. But
well, I hear that's a prerequisite for an accountant. If you're going to do accounting,
yeah, but
you have to be good at math.
A lot of guys that go to accounting, they take arts courses and they graduate into the thing. It's not as obvious as you'd think. But to your point, yeah, it's very helpful. Stats is very helpful. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What matters is we don't get too hung up on details.
Right, don't let the details get in the way of a good story. Okay, so there are some, no, this is not accurate. I am looking at the wrong thing. Back in the cannabis world.
I want to see what ACB's doing because
well, let's take a look at that chart. Pull up that chart.
$12.79 up 86 cents. Wow, this thing could go on a tear now. I think. Well, it looks like it's on a tear. On the other hand, as I say it, I look at the RSI over 75, which is a little bit of a warning sign. And the other thing that's a warning sign is it's over the band. But it was over the band here. It was over 3 days in a row now. It's over the band. That will not continue. We saw here 1, 2, 3 over the band, over the band, over the band, over the band, and then whoosh. And all that's saying is statistically, it's abnormal to be that far from a moving average. That's all. More math.
Well, so that's where, again, a fundamental development can skew the technical analysis because you can't see it coming in this technicals.
No, you can't see it coming, but you can and sometimes it's not about predicting. Sometimes it's defensive. Sometimes there's offensive plays and sometimes there's defensive plays.
Right.
That's why they have both types of players on a team.
Right. When you want to defend, you send out the defenders.
Yeah, well,
when you want to offend, you send out the offenders.
When the power play is against you, you bring out your best defense.
So when do you bring out the elephants?
When you want to cross Switzerland in World War II.
Isn't it too cold in Switzerland for elephants?
They went, was it Hammurabi? Did he cross the Alps with elephants?
Hammurabi?
Somebody did. No, it wasn't Hammurabi.
Attila the Hun?
No, it was...
Peter the Great.
Maybe it was Attila. I don't know. Somebody did. Somebody marched elephants through the mountains.
Hadrian.
It wasn't me, anyways, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. So I'm going to pull up at this thing here. I want to look back at this chart here. So I'm looking at this movement here up in Aurora and trading outside of the Bollinger Band. So is this going to, you saying it can't continue, it has to come back inside the Bollinger Bands?
Look, if you look at every chart I put up,
yes,
95% of the time, it's trading between the Bollinger Bands. So we're not going to go into a world where that doesn't take place.
True.
Because what this does is it changes the band so quickly that it has to come in by virtue of the bands being, like, look at the width on these bands. So we had a narrow band here, right? Narrower,
yes,
narrower than this. And now all of a sudden, look at this, how wide they are.
Wow.
And so yeah, that'll force it back within that alone makes, future trading back inside the band. May not happen for a day or 2 or 3, but look, the faster it goes up in a straight line, the closer you are to a turn. That's almost, unless there's a takeover or something like that.
That's just the way it goes?
That's mathematics.
Okay, so let's take a look at the indexes as a group today.
Okay.
I have them up on my little screen here, and it's been quite a day. I mean, generally, the cannabis sector at the end of Q1 here continues to march forward strongly against all predictions. So I think that's pretty incredible. The large cap's up 2.06%. Now, let's go look at the index page and see why that is. And so leading that charge today is obviously Aurora, up 7.21%, 86 cents on the day. Over the last 2 days, this company has put on, like literally, $2.8 billion worth of market cap. I've really, I mean, if you were going to add somebody to like your board of advisors, like Nelson Peltz, I mean, wouldn't you just go around? So they added $2 billion worth of market cap. His options are going to be costed at what? $10 a share?
Yeah.
And so that implies a cost of $10 million.
No, so it's for him, he's got to put up, he's got how many, 10 million shares times 10 million is 100 million.
Right, so.
He's got to put up 100 million to exercise his options.
Right, but so how does Aurora account for that on the balance sheet?
Well, that's a cost. There's a cost when you issue options.
Okay, what is the cost as a percentage?
You know what? I don't know exactly, but I know, for instance, when you issue options to an employee, there's a line on the income statement that's a non-cash item, but there's a cost to the company. Mm-hmm. So there's a cost.
I'm curious I'd be interested to look into how do they arrive at the cost of issuing an option.
It's an accounting treatment. It was like I think I haven't been an accountant for a long time, but it's generally accepted accounting principle, or it's
Wait a sec, you're
international.
not an accountant anymore?
Well, I stopped paying my dues first time I went bankrupt. And
wow,
that's another story.
Right. We'll save that for when it's raining.
Being smart and losing money are two different things.
Being smart and losing money. Doesn't losing money make you smarter?
You could be the smartest guy in the world. Like I'll go back and say Newton lost all his money in the South Sea bubble because he couldn't stand the thought that.
This is the guy who identified gravity.
He identified how he could calculate the motions of stars, but he couldn't determine the madness of men. I'm not making this shit up.
So that's the interesting thing. Like, here's my experience with wealthy individuals is that they're not necessarily smart.
Well,
They've got a few,
Sorry for interrupting, but that's like a movie star all of a sudden waxing on some political thing. Well, what the fuck? Come on. How could they know? Just because they made money in Hollywood? I mean, it's mythology, right? Hollywood is the Romans' version of mythology. Wouldn't you think? Especially,
that's an excellent way to describe it. I'd never thought of it that way. Cantrust Holdings added 2.06% today, up 24 cents. That thing's been on a bit of a tear, but if you look at this little bit in here, it's kind of started to adopt that, well, we'll call it the equilibrium thing, since that's apparently our expression du jour, de semaine, de anneau.
I'm trying to figure out what that little move here you got up here with. What caused that little blip on? You don't know what I'm talking about? No.
On Cantrust?
No, on the chart, on the big index.
Oh yeah, no, we haven't figured that out.
Okay.
That was a data feed issue. Yeah, but Cantrust hasn't really been putting out much in the way of news. Let's see. Oh well, fourth quarter results. Why don't we look at those? We haven't really had the chance to do that. Oh, it's on that stupid pot stock news. What a waste of time that thing is. Anyways, let's just see here.
I want to take a look at weed too. Weed's always good to look at because it's the big one still, right?
Yeah.
And is that thing forging ahead, or is that thing hardly Yeah, it's not going well. It's not that it's not going anywhere. It's in that, what did he say, like equilibrium band. Look at this thing. So we had wide band, right? And now narrowing. So There's going to be a day of reckoning here, one way or the other, and that's the way you want to get on. This thing does this. You want to go long. If this thing does this, probably want to short it or get out.
Yeah. BC Liquor Distribution Branch. Great. We don't have a. Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm reading the wrong thing again. Tilt Holdings. Have we looked at a chart of that yet? Tilt on the CSE.
Tilt. I remember when they came out with Tilt. I'm going to put it up right now. Market's closed yet? Not yet. Tilt.
4 minutes.
TILT. And what exchange?
CNX.
The exchange of choice. Hey, you know that
the cannabis exchange.
They should call it the CSX, Cannabis Stock Exchange, CSE.
That's what it is.
Well, here's another sleepy looking. Again, this is a sleepy looking chart. I'm not saying the company's sleepy looking.
Right.
Okay. So let's not. But look at this. This thing is. Now that's a 3 month. I'll put up a 6 month. It may give us more information. Okay. So look at wide bands, and then all of a sudden, after that big move. Jeepers creepers. You got to be a bit of a engineer to operate this. Okay, so well, you can see a bit of a trend there, right? It's grinding lower. Some guys might argue that's a bit of distribution.
Sure.
And I don't know I can't remember the specifics, but this thing came out and it was at a real discount and then rallied all the way back to the issue price or something like that. Look at that. It came out here. That was in that period where things were really looking ugly, and some of the capital firms were still issuing deals, and they came out with big discounts to the issue price.
Right.
And then look at this, right back.
Wow.
That's a funny looking chart too. I don't know what the hell I'm drawing here, but I don't think I'll go to that. Was that guy's name? Nagy, that had the color by number or something, or
color by number.
There was a famous artist that he could draw with. I think it was Learn to Draw by something Nagy. You remember him?
No.
No, you're too busy. You were in a rock band or something, weren't you?
Yeah, rock band, an orchestra, symphony, ballet,
nice,
jazz ensemble, barbershop,
quartet.
Did you hear that the sales of dried cannabis were down in the month of January?
That's kept me up all night.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why?
Because I stopped buying, and
kidding.
Maybe that's one of the reasons. No. I don't know. What does that tell? What does that? Does that mean that we are going to go into synthetics and edibles and everything else? Because it's early. It's early days. You'd think sales would be flourishing.
Well, this is it. So the prediction was that that cannabis use would increase upon legalization, and certainly coming out of the chute. I don't know if. Hold on here. I'm going to switch my NDI looker to my Safari. Where is it? It's not visible here. Okay, let's do this. Let's grab this link. Command copy. We'll go over to this. We'll stick it in here. Now, we are going to go to our NDI file, pull it up. Oh, come on, baby.
Let my fire. Come on, baby.
All right.
Let my fire.
Yeah. Cannabis supply and demand initial report. Here it is. Now let's look. This chart is very telling. So finished inventory is pretty much stable. It's actually down a bit in January. Unfinished inventory is way up. So I guess that's just...
Unfinished inventory, is that like work in progress? Is that...
Well, I think that's cannabis that's still growing that has not been harvested. Because finished inventory would have to be dried and packaged. So,
okay.
So this is, to me, this is the really interesting aspect, is that while sales are flat and actually down a bit, production and inventory continues to rise. So how do you reconcile that with the general statement that there is a shortage of cannabis supply in Canada and there was likely to be one for years to come? That to me makes zero sense. There's no shortage of supply. In fact, we have growing supply. What we don't have is uptake of the existing inventory. And why is that? I think that's because of the stringent and somewhat complicated
getting from the grower to the
grower has to go through all these hoops to get it to the consumer. By the time it gets to the consumer,
it's dry, it's not very good, so the sales are plummeting.
Exactly. And I think customers in Canada are starting to move back to unlicensed suppliers, craft suppliers, illegitimate suppliers, black market, call it what you will. People are not going to be eager to uptake radiated marijuana that tastes like shit.
We talked about the cow shit. Maybe we should be smoking cow shit.
Well, that's just it. So I think that the lesson here, and this is probably where we're expecting too much from government, the government's going to have to go, oh, look at all our predictions about the uptake of cannabis when it becomes legal are turned out to be wrong. Do you think the quality that we inflict on our growers is part of the reason? Like, I'm pretty sure there's not a grower who would not admit that. Obviously not publicly, because then they're going to be in the crosshairs of Health Canada. But look at these numbers. It's just like, it's insane. Like, the numbers are down on sales, but the inventories are up. And that is a recipe for
disaster.
A disaster. A disaster. Anyways, it's going to be interesting to see. I think that multinational diversified companies like Canopy, Aurora, they've got nothing to worry about because Canada is really going to end up being the smallest, one of their smaller markets. Europe's going to be big. Latin America is going to be big. I mean, some people don't think so, but I think Latin America is going to be huge because the people there are already more predisposed towards plant-based medicinal treatment than other cultures. Like Europe, it's like you tell a German that, you know what, never mind your Pfizer-originated opiate that, yes, instantly relieves pain, but you're addicted. This plant is better. They're going to have a harder time with that than, say, somebody in Peru who's grown up with plant-based medicines as the default remedy for most things and say, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense, and it's way cheaper, and it grows locally, not a problem. So the market today is not the market that is going to be. And in the United States, in the state of California, still 9 out of 10 dispensaries are illegal. 9 out of 10.
That was a very interesting fact that you mentioned a couple of days ago, and I've lost sleep on that one too. Well, look. If things aren't what they appear to be,
yes,
and I'm starting to get the sense that that's more and more the case because, you know, California was this great market, but doesn't appear to be that great after all, does it? Or are we talking, well, do we know for sure? I don't know. And then we hear that the inventories are going up, of flower sales are down. Like, that's not what you want to hear.
No. And that's, you know.
And then there's more people coming into the game all the time.
Well, especially in California. I mean, so people call California the largest market in the world. No. The population of California is 42 million, 47 million, somewhere in there.
A little bigger than Canada.
Colombia has 48 million. Brazil has 220 million. Mexico, what is Mexico?
But will every country go into it? If they start to see that other countries are benefiting, why would they want to let the money go into another country? Let's say, can every country in South America, for instance, grow good quality marijuana? Probably not.
Every country in South America?
Yeah.
Well, I don't see why you couldn't.
Well, there you go.
I mean,
you couldn't, like the tip of Chile, for instance.
Well,
you may not want to grow it down there.
I don't think you're gonna have a smaller growing season, probably, like trying to grow it in Tuktoyaktuk.
In Alaska, for instance, you might have a tough time growing it in
well, what if you grow indoors? Just the cost of electricity. The Mexico, 130 million people. Have you been watching El Chapo?
I hardly watch any television anymore.
It's not television. It's Netflix.
Okay.
What's the matter with you?
What about you know what moved up nicely today was High Hampton after our interview yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, it moved up 6 cents, I think.
Wow. Oh, that's right. That's right. I was hearing from a market maker who we know and love that he says, God damn, that High Hampton went from 33 to 40. I was like, well, that's good, isn't it? He's like, no, I'm short.
Yeah.
Which is too bad. What other big moves have we been seeing from companies that have been long-term sleepers? I can't get over looking at Balance Grow enough. Because that one's just one that just keeps on powering forward. Now, somebody pointed out to me, and this is just, Balance Grow in the past was a client. So you would think that, you know, we'd be predisposed towards speaking glowingly of them. However, somebody pointed out and said that Balance Grow mostly processes the cannabis for others and then provides them the extract back from which they get a fee. Whereas MediPharm actually processes its own cannabis or buys the cannabis and processes it and sells the thing. So that's the better business model. I think it's going to be interesting to compare the extractors on their financials once they're all up and running at maximum capacity. Because that's a good point. If you're an extractor and you don't grow your own cannabis, though Balance Grow does grow its own cannabis, but if you're relying primarily on feedstock from others, is that a sufficiently good enough business model that you're going to ride a wave if you're just providing the service of extraction? Because I mean, like, the farmer used to bring his wheat to the miller, and the miller used to grind the wheat into flour in exchange for some of the flour.
Take it to the baker.
And take it to the baker, who would take it to the candlestick maker. But those, what was that, the old economy?
That's the old economy.
Yeah.
Now we're in the new economy. I mean, I got the chart up here for Balance Grow Works.
Yeah.
I don't know how many shares there are in this company, but I got to believe there's, would you say there's 150 million, 200 million?
Well, let's take a look. VGW.
VGW-CNX, and the answer is, holy smokes.
How much?
Roughly 93 million shares, so market cap less than 300 million. So $300 million, I don't know what the revenues are. There's been some damage done here in the chart, but it looks like it's recovered nicely. But where we had Bollinger Bands rising, moving average rising, that's all starting to flatten out a bit. So, yeah, you know what? I mean, look, it's been this market, every time it craps out in this space, it comes back.
Right.
Is that going to happen every time?
One would think.
Well, up and down.
In the context of Khiron, Khiron did the joint venture with Dixie Brands. And I didn't really understand the significance of that till I spoke to, I spoke to Chris Naprawa, and he made it very clear that that was a big thing. That's something that's going to potentially drive a lot of shareholder value. I'm going to talk to the CEO of Dixie Brands in just a moment, but first, this.
Dixie Brands Inc. designs, manufactures, and distributes cannabis-infused products. It makes hemp oil-derived human and animal dietary supplements for use in relaxation, pain relief, immunity development, and wellness under the Asesco Wellness and Therabis names in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Australia, and New Zealand. The company also owns the intellectual property, product branding, formulations, proprietary ingredients, and preparation methods related to a variety of cannabis-infused products, and designs and distributes packaging, ingredients, and non-cannabis consumer goods. Dixie Brands Inc. was founded in 2010 and is headquartered in Denver, Colorado. Dixie Brands trades under DIXI.U on the CSE.
Chuck, welcome.
Thank you very much. So happy to be here.
Excellent. I'm so happy to have you here and be able to hear you too. Chuck, just for the listeners who don't know, give us an overview. What is Dixie Brands all about?
Yeah, thanks very much, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and your viewers. Dixie Brands is a multi-state operator focusing on manufacturing and distribution of consumer brands for the cannabis industry. We have a portfolio of over 150 products across 15 different delivery categories, as well as 2 other companies that focus on CBD wellness. One is called Acesso for human supplements, and the other is Therabis for our pet supplement treatments.
Okay, so how big a segment is the pet segment? I'm just curious about that.
Well, Therabis is a really exciting part of our portfolio, and we're really thrilled about the future of it. The pet category in the United States for supplements is about $5 billion market.
Wow.
We actually have 2 very large portfolio product offerings for dogs, a food topper as well as a soft chew. These are all indication-specific products for joint mobility, skin irritation, or anxiety. And we just announced recently that we'll be launching a feline treat, the first of its kind, targeting, again, anxiety in cats, which I didn't realize, but is a really big problem for the feline population.
That's fascinating. I'm more of a dog person myself, but I'm curious, you recently announced a deal with Khiron Life Sciences to bring more than 100 market-proven products to the Latin American cannabis market, and that's got to be a major increase in your global footprint.
We are so excited to be partnering up with the Khiron team. Alvaro and Chris Naprawa, the president, we've just created a great relationship, and our teams are working really, really well together. As you mentioned, we just announced the definitive agreement yesterday. And really, this is a 50-50 partnership. This is both companies coming together to form Dixie Khiron Corporation, a joint venture that will both invest in as well as both share in the revenues and profits. And Khiron brings an extensive, as you well know, an extensive infrastructure and country-by-country experience and distribution. We, in turn, bring this broad portfolio of products that I mentioned that both serve the medical as well as the adult use marketplace currently. So this synergy is really going to give us first-mover advantage.
You bet. Is this a case where you're going to roll out all of the different brands? You've got over 100 brands. Are all of those going to be available throughout Latin America in a Spanish language branded sort of format?
Yes, just to be clear, we have over 100 products. They are spread across a number of brands. The most iconic brand, of course, is Dixie. We also have Acesso and Therabis, and we have other sub-brands, and we'll continue to curate brands. More importantly, we're able to bring these already formulated products and delivery vehicles, so a pressed pill, for example, or a topical product, or an effervescent powder that you mix in to make a drink. And all of those things allow us to deliver a product immediately once each of the countries determines which format of the products and which distribution methodology is going to be allowed. Mexico, for example, is going to have a different set of rules and regulations than Colombia initially. But frankly, there isn't a product that any of those countries could approve that Dixie doesn't already have somewhere in commercial availability.
Sure. And so what is exactly right now the status of approval for these things in all of Latin America and Mexico?
Well, they are country by country specific, as you can imagine, and we're working with the Khiron team who already has approvals for certain formats of product in Mexico, as well as getting approvals for certain formats of product and distribution in Colombia. And so as the teams come together, we'll figure out, based on their regulatory expertise, which products we can launch first. I think we're very encouraged about being able to move into Mexico very soon, and I believe the teams are very excited about Colombia. I also want to say that part of our joint venture deal is that we actually bring their highly formulated and incredible product, Quita, back to the United States, and so we can start manufacturing and distributing that product here this year as well. So I'm excited to get that into our distribution network.
Right. That's interesting. So then you source your cannabis in North American markets from your partnership with Choice Labs?
Well, that's in Michigan. So the company, Dixie as a company right now, as I mentioned, we're kind of a multi-state operator. We operate in 5 states today. That would be Colorado, California, Nevada, Maryland, and we're just opening up Michigan with our partner there, Choice Labs. Our stated goal for the company is to add 4 to 6 additional states this year, and that'll give us the biggest footprint of controlled manufacturing and then direct to dispensary distribution in the branded infused products space. In each state, we work with partners that are cultivators to secure the cannabis either in raw form that we then extract in our lab, or in an oil form. In a state like Colorado, for example, there are many really high quality oil providers, so we can buy it at a cost per milligram cheaper than we can extract it on our own. So it really depends on the state that we're operating in, since, as you well know, we can't ship across state lines.
Right. So is the joint venture then, where will it source its cannabis for inputs? Is that what Khiron will be in charge of providing that aspect?
Yes, Khiron will be in charge of the cultivation side, both with their installed facilities they're building, as well as some of the companies they're working with and potential acquisitions. I think Netagrow is one that is widely known that they're getting hopefully close to closing that transaction. So they'll be producing the cannabis, bringing it into facilities where we'll manufacture it together based on our SOPs and our different formulations and form factors. It may be a Dixie branded product, but frankly, the team will work and maybe the brand is more specific to the region or the country that it's in. So those are things that we know and we've been doing for 9 years, so we're very comfortable in building the brands and then getting them out into distribution.
Right. Okay, so that's a big market in Latin America. It's a huge market in the United States. In Latin America, you're going to be able to more, I mean, it's country to country, but you can still ship cannabis products across borders there, can you not?
Yes, there are more liberal import-export rules in Latin America and Mexico than there would be in the United States. We can't even ship across state lines, let alone ship out of the country or into the country. So, clearly we'll be working closely with Khiron and their team on the best sourcing of material and the most cost-effective way to produce products and get them into these individual markets.
Yeah. Wow, that's great, Chuck. I'm excited about your company and excited about your deal with Khiron, who is I'm invested in. They're also a client. I'm going to look forward to following this company closely. We'd like to visit you with a camera crew and shoot your operations. Is that something we could do?
Oh, we'd love to have you come out and do that. We always love to have people come on the tour. Most folks don't understand when they think about the cannabis industry and making some infused products, really what it takes. I'm sitting here in our Colorado facility. It's a 30,000 square foot commercial food manufacturing facility. I mean, the way I call us, we're a food manufacturer. We just have a funny ingredient called THC.
Right. Interesting. Okay, well, that's great introduction, Chuck. We'll be following the story with interest. We'll have you back soon. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
Anyway, we'll talk.
Happy Friday, everybody. Ed, happy.
This is it looks like Kool-Aid,
but it's a Negroni.
But it's aid.
It's aid.
It's
first aid.
It's courage.
First aid for a Friday. We are drinking the Professor's Negroni here, an excellent concoction from Dillon's. And Dillon's is a small batch distillery, and it's Canadian. Not that you American folk will care, but I've also had some Canadian US-based pre-bottled Negronis, which are also very good. But this is very, very tasty. This is essentially, this is like vodka, or not vodka, but gin, Campari, and vermouth, and nothing more.
Jesus. So the worst thing I thought was that for the longest time, there was no Clamato juice in the U.S.
Well, that's not entirely true.
You go back 10 years ago and you ask for Bloody Caesar, they say, huh? What?
Well, depends where you are.
Well, but Florida.
Florida, yeah.
Florida, baby.
You mean a Bloody Mary? You want a Bloody Mary?
You mean Bloody Mary?
Y'all want a Bloody Mary. We don't have no bloody Caesar. No, yeah, that's true.
No, and I don't, like, I thought to myself, geez, I got a great idea for the Mott's. You get your ass down there and start selling this shit down in the States because...
Geez, I wonder if we could get the rights for Bloody Caesars in the U.S. from Mott's.
Mott's Clamato juice is one of the best tasting, and in little cans, only 40 calories.
40 calories, you don't say.
You know how I know?
Boy, this is like product placement.
Because I buy a little once in a while when I'm, you know, I don't drink very much.
No?
I don't.
What do you mean?
I don't.
Every time I see you, drink till the cows come home.
I got serious issues.
Really? Well, that's good. That's probably why we ended up doing this show together.
Well, yeah, we drank 3 bottles of wine that afternoon. And,
that's right. That was what they call in the movie business the catalyzing event that started this whole thing. People are asking me about my favorite cannabis CBD oil, and I have tried a great deal of CBD extracted oils. And I just want to give a big shout out to Green Relief at greenrelief.ca, the best oil in the world. Now, of all the oils I've tried from everywhere in the world, Green Relief's Sunset Oil, not the Sunset Light is a diluted version of the Sunset Oil.
Sounds like Sunset Oil is for the older folk.
Well, it sounds like that, but Sunset Oil's, this current batch is 48.5 milligrams per milliliter of oil. Oh, wait, no, that's not it. Hold on, wait, whoa, hey, ha, yeah! Cannabis oil, let's show you the right thing here because I've got the wrong thing up. Here it is, right here, right here, right here. Oh, it's doing a pop-up on me. I don't want a pop-up, damn it. Okay, here we go. Sunrise oil.
You like that stuff?
This is it, yes. You know why? Look, less than 0.07 milligrams per milliliter THC. So even when I'm doing...
So you don't drink that?
Well, you do. Well, it comes with an oral dropper, and you just drop 1 milliliter under your tongue, which means you're getting a dose of 48.5 milligrams of CBD. Right. And I'll tell you, the rest of the day is smooth sailing.
All right.
And then if you end the day with a Dylan's pre-balled Negroni, look at us. We're just shills now for products that get people wasted. What is wrong with us?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's easy to say when you have a drink in your hand, but if you notice...
this was my... Would have been my 9th day without drinking.
Well, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
No. 9 days is good. If you only drink every 9 days, you're
our buddy
good.
Steve Dunn does, eh?
What's that?
He's got a calendar, like an old-fashioned calendar with big squares for each day.
Yes.
And every day he doesn't drink, he puts an X. And his goal, now he hasn't met his goals lately. Steve, I hope you're listening, you drunk.
You pissed egg.
Steve, you probably were on your way to the fridge to get a beer while I told you this, so you didn't miss anything. So his goal is to have more check marks than blanks.
Okay.
And so the idea being, he didn't drink for half the month. If he didn't, like if he's got 16 days marked off.
Yes.
That's it, and that's a noble thing.
Noble.
Well,
So he doesn't drink half the time.
Yeah, but I'd say that he's sort of that's not working lately.
So what are you recommending? That he drink more?
Well, he couldn't drink any less.
Sounds like if he's got X's on his calendar, that means he could drink less.
He
and
and 3 other reprobates during PDAC went out for lunch, and they told me that they drank 5 bottles of wine, and one of the guys wasn't drinking wine. So that was 3 guys at lunch drinking 5 bottles of wine. Steve, I hope you're.
That sounds like you're telling tales out of school there.
I know.
Ed.
I hope your daughters aren't listening.
Boy, I was gonna say, that's some crazy ass.
No,
shit
no.
there.
I think.
Damn. You know what? You know what just happened is, damn it, I was about to demonstrate the. Never mind. So what are you saying? He should drink more or less?
I think I told you when I should have been listening to the earlier interview that I spent 56 days on the wagon last year, and
Whoa!
At the end of it,
56 days, that's like 1/8 of a year.
I pleaded to
God?
Yeah, I said, please put me back.
Really?
Take me off the wagon.
No kidding.
Take me off.
Off.
You know what? It is boring. It is boring, and you will find that
nobody wants to talk to you.
Well, why would they? They say, I'm not calling him up. He's no fun.
Well, exactly.
No, I think the trick is to try and go a week and then a week on, a week off, or not like maybe you don't drink from, say, Monday morning. But if you got a young family, I can see why, drinking and a young family doesn't go together.
Why not?
Well, because kids probably want to go out and play while you're still.
Oh, well, you're
still sleeping.
That's why you send them out to play.
You send them out to play.
Anyways, I thought everybody would want to check in on my little green garden here. So these are plants that I'm growing. Oh, maybe I can't see them on my net NDI because it's in full screen again. Is that what's going on here? Oh, as soon as I put it on, oh, no, it should be there. You got them. Look at that. There they are.
They've sort of.
That's
now
Daisy,
let me ask you this question.
Petunia, and of course my personal favorite, Mary Jane. Look at them, just growing away there.
But why wouldn't you say Mary Jane, Betty Jane? Why don't they all be Janes?
They're all from different countries. So Gertrudis here, I've just changed her name. That's her middle name. Gertrudis, she's looking a little under the weather. But she's suffering from a case of overwatering, because what I did, you'll notice that I took them out of the Autopot feeders, because what I found is that the temperature in my room is not allowing enough evaporation, and so they're going into a state of essentially what's called nutrient lockout, which occurs when you overwater them. That's one of the things that occurs, and so yeah, they're looking a little pale, but they are just a little bit overwatered. But soon, they are going to rock
they
and roll.
don't look really green, do they?
No.
I think you've invented a new strain of yellow cannabis.
Well, this is...
But maybe you have. What if this turns out to be...
a new strain?
A panacea.
And that you do one puff?
You do one puff and then you live forever. You become immortal.
You live forever and you're a genius and you're rich.
And
the object of your desire falls in love with you.
And how about not only that, you get a lamp. It
you
grows
get a lamp.
up, and the plant goes like this and hands you a genie's lamp.
And you get another 1,000 wishes. You keep rubbing the lamp, and you keep making wishes, and having to haul off that giant Trailer Park Boys bong.
Rub the lamp, you rub the hemp.
Rub what? What are you talking about now? Hey, this is a PG-rated show. Hemp. Rub the hemp.
Yeah.
What are you going to get rubbing the hemp?
Well, instead of rubbing the lamp.
Is that like spanking the monkey? Like, why would you rub the lamp? Why would you rub the hemp? Actually, you know what I've been doing is I've been rubbing aloe on my face.
On your face?
What? See, you got a dirty mind. You just assume I'm going to default to
Why
something
is it dirty? Why is this stuff dirty?
You're just like,
Jesus.
I saw that lewd and lascivious look on your face. Right?
Yeah, you know, we've said this before. Lucre is the word for money.
Filthy.
And lucrative.
Ooh.
Lucrative.
Lucrative.
Something that's lucrative.
Yeah.
No, I got some ideas.
Yeah.
I want you to know.
Okay, you got some ideas?
Yeah.
It's 4:29, so being Friday, and the fact that we have definitely stepped off the wagon.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank our sponsors, which probably we shouldn't do while we're drinking, so we won't.
No, you know what? What about bloopers? Bloopers.
Bloopers. How about some bloopers? Have some bloopers!
Slap on the wrist like that, Edward. Don't do it again.
Hi, everybody. I'm not really political. I'm not political.
You know what?
I hate them all. I hate everybody. Well, you know what a cockle is.
No, I don't.
You don't know what a cockle is?
I don't.
You know
if you break that word up, I know what that is.
Maybe there's something good about dried cow shit. Maybe we should try smoking some.
Maybe
I'll try.
You try it.
You got some?
You try it and let me know. Yeah.
You've heard a rumor? What rumor have you heard, Ed?
Well, I've heard it from you.
How do we see the action on Chrono's earnings?
How do we see it?
Yeah.
Well, you wait for the earnings to come out, and then you look it up.
Checking your messages there, Ed?
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know what I'm doing. Control tower. Control. Control.
Chart.
You should have bet me. I was wrong. I said 5.
Well, but you probably would have never paid me.
As usual. You can't look smarter than you are. I guess you could.
If you go like this, you can. I'm a smart motherfucker. You are stupid.
I'm jumpy.
You're jumpy.
I'm going through a couple of, never mind.
What are you going through?
Babies produce mustard. This is the Flour Corporation.
How about that?
I think the gentleman's name is F-L-O-W-R, Flour.
Huh. The first name?
No, I think his first name's Tulip. I'm sounding like a realist. Realist.
Realist. That's what all the pessimists say.
Hominums.
Oh. Pardon?
Hominums. 2 trailer park girls going around the outside.
Well,
hey, we're the monkeys.
There and all.
With an H. What do you laugh at that? Yes, you ever heard of hominum?
I've heard of it now. I keep making money. Well, I got to stop that.
Let's start losing money.